Steve Davis here with Stillwater Woodcraft. Come back to the station camp area today. Kind of left off on this last fall. We had the frame built, and we made a thatch roof, just piled up leaves, debris on there. So I thought we'd come back this spring. I've been working on this a little bit. We're trying to turn this into a permanent type camp. And we've done a little work on the roof and the structure itself. Made a raised bed, got our fire area arranged here for now. So what I thought I'd do is give you guys a quick update on what's going on here. Alright, when we left off on this roof, we had our vertical pieces running up the roof, pretty tightly spaced. And we had about a foot deep layer of debris on it. And that worked good for a little while, but with any debris roof, it's pretty high maintenance. And through the winter, it didn't get that maintenance. So this spring, what I decided to do is go around and collect as much bark as I could get. Okay, these are pretty big pieces of bark, some of them is 5-6 foot long. And I have about 3, in some places 4 layers of bark laid on this roof now. And it's laid from the bottom to the top like shingles, so the top piece overlaps the bottom so water will shed. When you lay this on here, you want to keep it going up the roof in that direction, but you also want to move side to side and overlap your seams in there so none of the seams line up. Because, this is going to, some water is going to get through your first layer, your second layer, and you want it to be able to keep running down. And hopefully run down to the bottom before it gets through all your layers. In a heavy rain, this actually does shed a moderate rain really well. I haven't been back here when it's been raining really heavy yet to know exactly what's going on there. The one thing that would help this shelter, shed water a little better is the steeper it is, the faster the water is going to run off. But to build this shelter this deep and to use this log as a back in this, the roof's a little mellower than I would like it. I would like it a little steeper, but it is what it is. So, in the mind of keeping this a permanent camp, this is what I decided to do. It's a good bit of work toting all this bark. I've had to cover a lot of ground to get this much bark to cover this shelter. So, the time invested I think will be worth it in saving time and maintenance on a thatch type roof. Alright, let's move around here to the inside, and I built my raised bed in here. This is the frame of it. Okay, I want to show you guys how I did this. I made it, long enough for me and plenty wide. It wouldn't have to be this wide per se, but I figured while I'm building it, I might as well build it. My wife also loves to camp, so I made it big enough for both of us. What this is, basically, you'll see it's some pretty good pieces of wood. And down here on the ground is some shorter pieces laid against the ground, and then these larger round pieces to lift this up. Now this is notched. This piece is notched to the bottom down here, and then all my cross pieces are notched to this log. See here, there's notches for all this to sit in, so nothing will roll around. Okay, it's you want it pretty solid. You don't want to everything go rolling out in the middle of the night. Now, what this will have, you're looking at this and you're thinking that's going to be brutal to lay on. And you're exactly right. So what this is going to have is a browse bag or a ticking mattress, okay? Which is basically just going to be a piece of canvas folded over and sewn and then stuffed with debris and on top of here. Now in between these, I got 5 of these large pieces in here, okay, to support weight. And in between them, I just threw in some pieces that are, wrist size to keep things, the mattress and stuff from sinking through, and also, lend weight support. But it's going to make a really good bed. I have to finish sewing up my browse bag yet. Get it back here and get it in. So I just wanted to show you guys, what I'm doing for sleeping arrangements. Keep me up off the ground. It's underneath. We can get airflow underneath there, and you're up off the ground if it would get wet or whatnot. So I think this is going to be really good. Good night's sleep. All right, the only other thing, major that we've really done back here since the last video was finally get a fire ring in here, and had the first fire in it last night with my good friend Rob Simpson. So I toted all these rocks back here, a couple every time I walked in here. I carried a couple rocks in here. Now, there's some rocks in the creek right here, but we don't want to use creek rocks because they are saturated with water down in the pores of the rock. When they heat up, they explode. So we wanted rocks off of ground that doesn't lay in water. So, the only way to get them back here was to tote them. And being a permanent camp, I figured it was worth the effort to do that. Now, when I'm looking for rocks to make a fire ring, I like rocks that will sit where I can sit something, on them flat. So when I'm working around the fire, cooking or making bullets or anything like that we're going to do around the campfire, I have plenty of places to set stuff on these rocks to keep it warm. Like, for instance, my cup, I want to be able to set it down somewhere solid, close enough to the fire, it's going to keep it warm. So, that's just something that I think about just for convenience sake on making a fire ring. And this sounds like something that's pretty, straightforward and simple, but, the fire ring's the heart of a camp. You're going to do a lot of cooking, a lot of work here, from rendering tallow to cooking your food, anything like that, making hot water to take a bath with. So you want to make it functional. So this one I've made about 3.5 foot long and about 2 foot across here, okay? Now just for a regular fire ring it could be just half this size, but we made it long so you can use it like a 2-burner stove or something, if you want to think about it that way. You can have, a couple different things going on and be able to manage your fire in 2 different ways. Say if we're roasting some meat over here and we want a nice bed of coals for that, we can have that over here. If we want something, if we want to use our tripod to boil something, we can have a different fire over here. Or maybe we want fire for heat, we can build a bigger one over here, use it different. So, when you're doing this, kind of think ahead about what am I going to all be using this fire for, and maybe different things at the same time. Now in the winter time, this may actually become a little longer to get a long log fire in here to heat the shelter, and it'll probably also get a reflector on the far side of it. But in the spring and summer like this, it's 75 degrees in the middle of the night last night, it doesn't you don't need a reflector on it. It just kind of limits your space around there. So it's not something I'm going to do. The other thing to think about when you're placing this, no matter what size, shape, or whatever you decide to make, is if you got a natural shelter or even a modern shelter, is the distance away from that shelter to keep your shelter safe. And what I like to do is just stand at the edge of my shelter and place it one big step from the shelter. And what that seems to do is give you enough space to keep your shelter safe, but also it's close enough to heat the shelter. Farther away we get this fire from the shelter, it's not going to heat this shelter at all. And in the summertime, that might be something to think about. Keep your fire farther away from your shelter, and then come winter, move it closer. This could possibly get adjusted if I run into that situation. But anyways, that's, it is what it is, a place to burn stuff. Now another thing that I really find useful in camp is a tripod, okay? Now this one we can just move over here, drop our hook down, and our adjustment. You know, hang our kettle over here, boil something up, and still have something going on this side of the fire. When we're done, we just move our tripod off to the side of camp. Kick my skillet over, get it out of the way. Alright, let's move over here, and I'm going to mention a couple really simple tools that is, to my notion, essential in any camp, and it plays a big part in building this camp and keeping this camp going and making you know, different tasks a lot easier. And that's just a good hardwood stump, you know, cut to the height you want it to be, or maybe, you know, 2 or 3 of them. It's everything from a chair to a chopping block to a cutting board, all kinds of different uses for it. You know, mainly my butt sits on there, but you know, splitting wood, anything like that. A stump, or I call it a stump, you know, obviously it's a cut piece of wood. It's worth your time to take a bow saw, or, you know, maybe if you got a modern camp, use your chainsaw. But it's worth your time to take a bow saw and cut a nice solid piece of wood to use to beat on, sit on, any of that kind of stuff. The other thing is a digging stick. You know, I keep mine beveled on one end, kind of pointed on the other. Use it from everything from digging to a baton, driving stakes, anything like that. You know, you just want a good solid piece. Stir the fire with it. You know, maybe crack a muslin, something. But anyways, super simple, essential tools in camp. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little update on what's going on here at Station Camp. Here at Stillwater Woodcraft, we've been pretty busy with farming here this spring. I haven't got a chance to do very many videos at all. So, I appreciate you guys hanging around, waiting on me and whatnot. It's been Steve Davis, Stillwater Woodcraft. I appreciate your views, all your comments, and all your support. We'll see you on the next one.